or should I say, can you solve that problem in a cost-effective way for a big enough market to make it worth your while over sticking to your job?
When you start a business, if you don't have a vision, which is the big picture, then you're probably thinking too small at the moment. So if you're looking at the bigger picture, then you know you have to scale it. Welcome to another episode of Property Lunch with Giuseppe. Now, today I have a special guest, which is next to me, and Scott Weir. How are you doing, Scott?
It's good to be meeting in person. So we are actually here in person next to each other rather than on a screen.
Finally. So we are here in Sterling. So today we're going to cover the 5 tips for starting a business. It doesn't matter if it's property business or any business. So Scott is going to give us some contribution for this.
Yeah, cool. So I was at a business conference here, wanted to meet up with people locally. So we've got me on for an interview and asked me to do 5 tips. Now, there's probably unlimited tips that you could get for starting a business. So I've plucked 5 out just to give people that are starting a business some things to think about and some things to avoid. So I'll do one by one. You can ask any questions you want. So definitely tip number 1 for me is avoid the naysayers. Now, I've used the word naysayers because in Arnold Schwarzenegger's top 5 tips, avoid the naysayers is one of his. So following his footsteps is a good start. Now, why do I say avoid the naysayers? Well, what I tend to have found in my life and what I see in everyone else's life when we're speaking to other new entrepreneurs, they say, people tell me not to do it. Similar to your situation, stay in your good job, Giuseppe, don't jump out your comfort zones. Why would you give up a good job to go and be an entrepreneur and take that risk? So perhaps sometimes this feedback is valid and they're giving you feedback not to jump in and make a stupid decision for a crap business idea, and we'll cover that in later tips. But I want to expand on that. So when I'm saying avoid the naysayers, I want to tell you this: the people that will tell you not to do stuff and tell you don't be so stupid and stay where you are in your knife safe position, they're probably going to be the people closest to you, your friends and family, and the people that really should support you, but they're not. And that can sometimes be, it leaves people a little puzzled as to why would my close friends and family or husband and wife not support me? Well, let me tell you this, it isn't about you and your dreams, it's probably a reflection on them. So when people close to you see you jumping up and doing well and perhaps making that leap, they're telling you not to do it, not because you shouldn't and they don't have faith in you, simply because that scares them, that you're doing it and they're not, and you've made that leap that they always wanted to do, but they don't have the courage. So avoiding the naysayers and people telling you not to do it is definitely my first tip.
That's good. That's good. And we have a lot of naysayers in our life generally, and especially probably we were one of them for other people that our friends, they wanted to do something new and we were scared, so we didn't know how to do it, and we says, but be careful, you know, you don't leave the safe for the unknown. So we've been there, let's say. Yeah. So, okay, so that's number 1.
Tip number 2, we're getting into the business, the bones of the business here, and that is systemize everything as soon as possible. As solo founders, as entrepreneurs, we tend to start off being the only person in the business and everything's in our head, and we say, no one will do that as good as me. There's no other staff in the business. So I can have it all in my head. But starting off from day 1, when you're doing a task, write it down, make a procedure, make a checklist. You can get Google Docs for free. You can use loom.com, nice simple one, loom.com, screen recording software. And when you're doing a task, let's say uploading a property to Airbnb, if you're starting a property business and service accommodation, you can record on Loom, which is free. You can record that task, put it into a video, download it for free and put it into a folder. So systemizing everything well before you need to. And I've spoken to people many times about this over the years. I don't need to do it, it's just me. We don't have a lot of procedures. But when you finally need to employ staff and you're giving it to a VA, for example, you've got a VA in the Philippines or someone helping you remotely, you're going to need to do it all then. And guess what? By the time you start employing staff, you're not going to have time to go and record all these videos. So any task that you're going to do more than once a month, nice simple rule, if you're doing something more than once a month, record it, systemize it, make a checklist. And then when it comes to employing someone, all your training's already done. You can say, there's a training video, and then they can make training videos for all their tasks. So tip number 2 is systemize everything, get it in paper, get it out your head well in advance. And I know this is a tip that will be ignored by people because they want to do the creative stuff, the fun stuff, the selling. Yeah. I don't need that just now, Scott, but trust me, get it done every single time you do the task for the first time. And if you're doing it repetitively, systemize it, put it in a folder, and it's there.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant, especially because some people want to do was to outsource some tasks. So as you said, VA, you still need to train them. It's not like they come to your business and they know everything. So it's good to be prepared. And also there is a misconception about setting up a business is quite costly, but you mentioned a couple of softwares now, they are completely free. So if you do a search online, you will find a lot of softwares that can help you to start the business with a very low initial cost.
Yep. Again, one thing you can pay for Word and all these expensive things, but Google Workspace, as it's now called, and perhaps by the time you watch this, it'll have changed its name again. It keeps changing. But Google, for a license for £4.90 for your first email, you can get all as much drive storage as you need. You can get PowerPoint presentations, Word documents, spreadsheets, your email address with your business email. So our business is pillowpartners.co.uk. It gives you a professional one rather than scott@yahoo.com, which isn't. So for £4.90 a month, you can get a suite of different applications. And most of the things you use are free. And then when you need to start paying for the professional things, when you get some income, use that later. So
good. So tip number 1, tip number 2, what about 3?
Yeah, so tip number 3 is making sure you've got a business that has a scalable business model. And again, if you're starting a business, you might not understand what scalable business model means, but let me tell you this. Let's give you an example of someone that makes handmade cards, decoupage cards. And they're absolutely amazing. And so you should do that for a business because you make your friends' Christmas cards and anniversary cards and birthday cards.
I've heard that.
And then we make a business out of it because you're really good at it. But that's not a scalable business, and let me tell you why. Because you might make a card for someone you love, and you might say, I'm going to charge £5 for that, or even £10. But when you look at how long that takes you to do it, and it might take you an hour. So even at the minimum wage at £9. So if you're charging £10 for your card, and it's costing you £1 for materials, and it's costing you, £9 for your time, you kind of breaking even. There's no profit in the business. You're getting an hourly wage. So to hand make decoupage cards at £10 a pop, and would MD pay £10 for a card? Maybe, but let's say they're £5. You'll probably be losing money. For you to physically go and make a cake, unless you're high-end premium, not the cake model or decoupage cards isn't a scalable business. You can get staff to do it, but you need to be realistic about this and say, is this going to be a business that I can scale up to make more than the minimum wage? Because nice and simple, your business isn't VAT registered. It's probably not scalable. £85,000, you're not going to have, might have a 50% profit margin. So if you're making less than, let's say you're making £60,000, 50% profit, making £30,000, probably not far off the minimum wage. Many people I know in business, they're doing it because they've got the kudos of being an entrepreneur. And some people have the dream of being entrepreneurs, but it's not a scalable business. It's a lifestyle business. And that might fit in with your lifestyle. I'm not saying it's bad, but if we're starting a business, we want to make one with a legacy for our kids. It can let us retire, it gets holiday homes in different countries. So a scalable business model is something you need to think of from the very outstart.
Scott, do you think these tip number 3 links a lot with your vision? Because when you start a business, if you don't have a vision, which is the big picture, then you're probably thinking too small at the moment. So if you're looking at the bigger picture, then you know you have to scale it.
Yeah, a nice example of this is I made a business model once and I took it to Scotland, people, business mentors in Scotland, and they gave me it back and said, you've got too many zeros in that, you're far too ambitious. I took the same business model to Silicon Valley and these fancy venture capitalist firms, and they threw it back and said, Scott, you're thinking too small, put a couple of zeros on it. Same business plan, but the Scottish mentality here said, oh, that's too ambitious, you'll never do it. And the Americans said, that's too small, you're not thinking big enough. So these things are relative, but it's sometimes hard to think massive when you're starting off because you don't have the confidence and experience. But thinking big is amazing. You can aim high, and as long as you're having some relative success there, then that's better than aiming low and hitting your targets.
Yeah. Okay. So what's tip number 4 then?
So this is one that I didn't apply for the first 10 years in business, which is why I'm sharing it with you guys now, is that's ask for help. Sometimes as entrepreneurs, we feel we're martyrs, we're head down, we work 16 hours and we have that mindset of, well, I'm working hard. And I did that for 10 years and had relative success in business. But with the new business, Pillow, we achieved the same level of success and growth and scale in a year to 18 months. It took me a decade with the previous one. So 2006 to 2016, but halfway 2017, this business was bigger than what I'd built in a decade. And one of the reasons for that was asking for help. If you go and speak to successful entrepreneurs, successful business people, people in corporate jobs, they're more likely than not to give you help. And going back to number 1, and ignore the negative naysayers, you probably won't get someone more successful than you telling you not to do it and giving you a hard time and saying that shit, don't do it. It's all the people below you. So when you go and approach successful entrepreneurs, people in your field, even your competitors, you'll find, and I think especially in Scotland, people are quite happy to give you half an hour of their time to give you their advice. People like to talk about themselves and talk about how successful and good they are and share tips. So not to play in people's vanity, but if you ask for help, you will get it. And it's sometimes hard for us to go and ask. You're not admitting defeat. You're not admitting that someone's smarter than you. They're simply a little further on in their journey than you are. But I don't think I've ever asked MD, listen, could you give me some help with this? Could I get some advice? The only time they'll say no, if they're good, successful people, is you've just caught me at the wrong time, Scott. Happy to help, but like August, busiest time for our business. We manage holiday homes. August is just crazy for our team. I probably didn't have an hour in August, but coming into November, December, I have an hour for MD to help them start their business. So maybe not at the right time, but most people are happy to help.
Yeah. So that links a little with what you said earlier about the fact that we think we can do a better job than anyone else. So sometimes we don't ask for help because we don't trust that somebody else can do our job better than us. That's number 1. And number 2, why do you think people don't ask for help?
It's definitely a fear thing, an embarrassment thing, and there's sometimes arrogance for sure. I'm thinking I don't need help because I know all. So I think if you mix all those things in, different people will have different levels of why they don't want to ask for help. Again, different in America. Going to America, anybody will give you their time. They'll go and have an hour's coffee, and there's no expectations. We sometimes protective of our time in the UK because we're busy and giving secrets to competitors, but different mindset in the US. People I've spoken to in the certain areas, I've been more than happy to help people and give them a bit of advice.
That goes with the scarcity mentality, right? Because people think there's not enough for everybody.
Yeah.
So it says, why should I create a competitor and then I'm going to be left out? In reality, there is plenty for everybody.
Yep. And sometimes there's people I've met that were setting up letting agencies, and they had a handful of properties, and now they're close. Some of them are bigger than our letting agency is, some are close to being bigger, and I gave them advice, and some people won't make it, some will end up being bigger than you, but in most industries there tends to be enough business for everyone. There's very few that, again, there's very few niche markets, but it's definitely letting agencies, estate agencies, shops, gardens, plumbers. There's so many of these businesses and a few new popping into the market. It's actually good to have competitors because it forces you to up your game.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so last tip for starting your business.
Yeah, so the other ones have been positive and good and kind of systematic. This one, not harsh, but it is a reality check. And you need to, so tip number 5 is you really need to be realistic about your business or your product. So if it's a service, or people fall in love with their ideas, and they don't do market research, they don't do validation, they don't go and do focus groups with customers. They think, I have a good idea. As we go through, I'll try and think of some. I don't want to name and shame MD or bad business ideas, but just because you feel in your heart that this is a great idea that people will want and people will pay money for, then I've seen it a lot with entrepreneurs. They're passionate about it, but it's never going to be, it's so niche that not a lot of people will want it. You could take it to market, you'll sell a few, but there needs to be a big market, and it needs to be an identifiable market. So you need to be realistic about the demand for your product and service. Is this solving a problem for enough people? Or should I say, can you solve that problem in a cost-effective way for a big enough market to make it worth your while over sticking to your job? Now, I mentioned earlier a minimum wage job, shelf stacking. Well, that has a lower salary than perhaps a professor in a university, or there's many people left corporate jobs in £100,000 a year plus. And for your business to solve enough problems for enough people to earn £100,000 is going to be harder than being unemployed and starting a business, or being in the minimum wage at 15 hours a week. So not to sound negative, but you need to be realistic. And again, that goes back to the next one. Ask people. I've seen people ask customers and they've said, no, definitely not. They've had 20 people out of 20 say no. They're potential customers have still went ahead with businesses. So not to be negative, but you'll know you can burn through a lot of money with businesses. Yeah. Your business idea needs to be right. It needs to be something that you can make money on.
Yeah. If I can add on that one, when you choose a product or service for your business, make sure, first of all, it solves a problem, because otherwise you won't sell it. And number two, remember that people buy what they want, not what they need. And I was reading that in one book, and it says people buy what they want, not what they need. And I was like, that's not possible. How is it possible? And then he was making an example of if you have to fix your fence in the garden or go on holiday, you need to fix the fence, but you want to go on holiday. Guess what they're choosing? To go on holiday. So when you market your product or service, just remember, first of all, to solve the problem and to give what people want, not what they need.
Yeah, and we're in a conference room here and just done a 2-day business course. And actually what you're talking about, people can lead their business and their service on price. I am doing it cheaper than other people, and that's my USP. I'm cheaper. I'm providing the same thing, but cheaper than everyone else. Think budget airlines, Ryanair, they're doing it cheaper, and their thing is not luxury, not price. But if we take the opposite and we think, well, our product is better and it's much more expensive, so perhaps you're doing something that someone else is doing, but doing it better. Think Apple products. People are paying a mad premium for a phone that I think actually has a lot worse features than other ones, but the design, the function, there's just something about Apple products that people love and they're happy to pay a premium for. So you can do things cheaper or provide something better. But we've just spent 2 whole days here going over business principles, marketing, market segmentation, price plans, etc. So it's fresh in my mind.
That's brilliant. Right, Scott, thank you so much for this interview. And just put a comment below, put a like, subscribe if you like this interview, and then Scott will answer some of the questions as well.
Right. Perfect. Good luck, guys. Thank you. Great to see you, Giuseppe, and speak to you all soon. Cheers. Bye.